Hello and welcome to the Money Chart Scavenger Hunt. My name is Alexandra Danieli, and maybe you know me, maybe you don't. Either way, I'm honored you are here to watch this masterclass to understand more about your unique connection to money and how to improve it, how to invite in more of it, and how to use your chart/charts to discover this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a preset so that you know what we're dealing with and how we approach this. In my daily work, I have a big affinity for working with projectors because things are just a little different for us. And in my human design, I am a 4/6 mental projector. And in my Astro, I'm a Taurus Sun, Virgo rising. So, but we will go more into this, not the rising sign as much, but I will guide you through things and I will give you resources. If you feel at any point you would like to have my personal help with your chart, you're always welcome to reach out and book a reading with me or join any of my courses. I specialize especially in helping people, especially projectors, create financial abundance in a spiritual way. So, that all being said, welcome again. I would love to invite you to bring in your human design chart and your astrology chart. So, if you don't have those yet, take a moment, pause this presentation, and get yourself your charts so that you can have something to write, that you can scribble on it, maybe even print it out. And here is another distinction. This is completely up to you and your preference. Do you want to use your tropical charts, Western astrology, regular human design, or do you want to use the activation, how the stars actually were in the sky when you were born? That is called cosmic human design, or in astrology, it's called true sidereal, true sky, or life sky. So for those resources, I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point, if you're into human design, you also have a glimpse of astrology and you know where to get a chart. The difference is Western astrology, which regular human design is based on a calculation that's over 2,000 years old. And as the firmament, the sky shifts every year by a certain percentage, by a certain degree, where the stars are now is no longer where they would have been with that old calculation. But our entire society, our entire current worldview for the masses is built on that Western astrology tropical system. So with you looking at your tropical charts in astrology and human design, you're looking at how you fit in best into the current system. For projectors especially, this is important to consider because you are here also, a big piece of you is here to build the new world, right? The world of how we're actually meant to live, this whole paradigm of creating heaven on earth. You are part of that. And with a chart shift in 2027, it's actually a big piece of your work to be part of that. So for that, I would recommend more of the cosmic chart or the true sky astrology. It's going to just show you where your actual celestial star activation was when you were born. And you work with how the stars actually are in the sky right now. For me, this is way more aligned. I was working with my tropical chart for a long time, and it was great. It was very revealing. I felt very seen and understood. But when I learned and found out about my cosmic human design and my true sidereal astrology, I was like, who's in my head? Like, who knows this about? How do they know this about me, right? This was more like my underlying deeper soul-based desires and an activation that I felt very early in childhood. I spent a lot of time alone as a child because I'm a single child and I grew up very rurally in the country. lots of animals, nature. So there were a lot of things that I already experienced and felt when I was little. And those were the things that were confirmed by my true sky charts. So it's totally up to you which one you watch, which one you play with. You can play with both. But for the sake of this class, I recommend you stick with one. You can always redo this with another one, with the other chart. Your type might change in human design, and I want you to not make that a big deal, right? Because there's often a lot of ego and, not a big ego, but a lot of identity attached to the types that we know we are in human design. When your type changes, all that really means is how you operate changes. It doesn't mean you have to change as a human being, right? And naturally, over time, as you move more into your natural way of being, aligning yourself with your chart, whichever chart that is, with your true soul that is guiding how your body wants to interact with the world, anyways, the more natural the cosmic chart will feel, anyways. And most of the time, the only difference is there a defined sacral or is there an undefined sacral? And the difference between that being as an undefined sacral, projector, reflector, manifester, you just have to be more flowy in the way you use your life force energy. That's too much for this class, but I'm happy to help you in that way if you feel called. But and as a sacral defined sacral being, so manifesting generator or generator, you have a tank full of life force energy in that defined sacral to use up every day. Burnout can come to all types. So it's just about how you use that energy. So aligning yourself with your true self, that's what is so beautiful to use the chart for. But I never want to use it as a substitute for you listening to yourself and what feels right to you. Because who knows, maybe that nurse put down the minutes just slightly wrong. So that being said, charts are a wonderful tool, and I'm going to guide you through a bunch of good stuff. So where do we start? We start with money is pure, raw, naked, unadulterated energy, life force energy. That's why the sacral and how you use it is so important for it. How, and I have my notes here, how you use your sacral, I wrote this down, determines how much you make and if it stays in your life and fulfills you or leaves you and burns you out, right? You probably know people or know of people who have a lot of money and are still not happy and are still always in fear, right? That's not the kind of relationship that you want to establish as a spiritual human being with money, because it's always going to scare you. Your nervous system is never going to feel quite rested, and it's always going to be hard to pull it in and hard to keep it, and you're always going to have to worry, right? So your sacral is a big piece of that. So what we're going to look at today in your chart is a big piece also of determining how you use your sacral. And whether you're defined or undefined sacral being, the question for the sacral is always, does this light me up? Only as a defined sacral, this will be your authority or the emotional authority. So let's dive in to some tools where you can look things up. I always like to be tooled up so that we can do our spiritual surgeries. So with the goal of being more in alignment with the energy of money, I like to use the following websites. Basically, one website. Well, I like to use Unlock Your Design. Those have a nice combination. This website has a library of all the 64 doors, they call it. And they're a combination of Astro and human design. So they put it together, which is really nice. And they create these 64 archetypes in a more modern way. So you can use those for looking things up as things come up, as we're going into the gates more. Then for pulling your charts, cosmichumandesign.com You do need your UTC birth time, which will be probably in your regular human design chart, or you can use Google to translate into UTC time. I trust that you know where to get your regular human design chart, even though if you like to have your Chiron as well, Cosmic Human Design shows your Chiron, and also Karen Curry Parker's freehumandesign.com also will show you the Chiron, which we are also going to address today. So it's always good to know because Chiron can have a very big effect on people. Then there's also, I recommend for anyone who wants to dive deeper into each of these energies, the Gene Keys book. It could be audio book, it could be the physical book, which I don't have on my desk right now, but it's a very big, thick library that you can always look up and you can make marks or highlight things. So that's always really nice. I love the audio book for the car. I keep listening to things over and over, always hear something different. Really depends on how you're set up. And then also, you can always check in with the original energies of the 64 I Ching. There's some apps for that as well. So there's lots of tools and resources, but the most important ones is to have an accurate chart. So for astrology, for the true sky, the true sidereal, the live sky, I most love masteringthezodiac.com. This is Ethan Chimenti's website, and he also has a giant library of articles, and he's just a very grounded human and astrology teacher, and he's just done a wonderful job. You can also order there, I think it's $97, a complete report of your astrology in True Sky, which for me was all the answers I needed. You can book a reading with him too. So there's lots of good websites and resources out there. Feel free to reach out to me if you need anything else, but those should cover what we're doing here. So let's dive into how you can accelerate your alignment with the energy of money through your chart. The first idea to always keep in mind is that like attracts like, right? So that's the law of affinity. You want to make sure that you are aligned as much as possible, and it's a daily work, right? We get more used to it, but it's always a daily intention, a daily commitment, a daily challenge to how to align yourself more with the energy of money. And before you can make anything more, you always have to see what you have to take away, where you can make space, what you have to subtract, what you have to let go of in order to create more space for money. So that's why we're going to look at the challenges first. And you're probably like, woo, challenges first. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment too, because then you can see more in a visual way what I'm talking about, not just hear me talk about it. So let me share my screen so that you can see my chart. And hopefully you are familiar with the terminology I'm going to use. If not, I recommend looking it up on the internet. Whatever you don't understand, Google it, or ask your ChatGPT. Ask your trusted ChatGPT dealer. I work a lot with ChatGPT just because it's got such a vast, knowledge base that pulls together books very easily. Also, as a tool and a resource, you can also add that, because you can always look up what is the energy of gate so-and-so, and ChatGPT will tell you. So what we're looking at now, so the left column here of these numbers is the unconscious side. People also call it the body side. And then on the right side, we have the soul side, the soul numbers here, soul gates, or the conscious side. I like to start with the conscious side, because everything that you address on a soul level is going to have results in the physical world anyways, right? Because all of your physical creations, whether it's money or whether it's children, whatever it is, it always has a spiritual source. So when we're addressing things here on the right side, on the soul side, it's always going to positively affect the left side anyways. So we're going to look at some challenges. Obviously, also, some of the challenges will lie on the left side because they're in the unconscious, they're in the body, they're in the physical. That's why this left side is called body and unconscious. So let me just adjust to another view real quick. So, they have tons of options here. Quantum and Chiron in my software, it's called, just because I wanted to see the Chiron as well. And that's taking a moment to load. Here we are. So the Chiron is in a slightly different color here, that little circle with a K on top, just because it's a planetoid. It's not a real planet or a star, but it has a strong effect. So don't knock it out. For me, that's gate 25, but you will see in my chart, gate 25 is not activated, or else I would probably be an ego projector, right? Because then I'd have the G and the will center defined. So here we go, 25, but yeah, let's actually start with the Chiron because it's our wounded healer. Wounded healer meaning it's a thing, and I'll stop sharing for a second just so, yeah. The wounded healer is a thing in your life. It's a wound that will always be kind of a little bit open. But when you learn to work with it directly, it's not really going to affect you much in your happiness on a day-to-day level. It's more like this is where a lot of your blessings come from, right? When you stop seeing the wounded healer as a source of suffering and see it more as a source of blessings, because you're going to continually receive wisdom and blessings through learning on a day-to-day basis and making it your practice, how the wounded healer is helping you get there, right? So for me, that being gate 25, I would be very conscious now of in human design, that's a lot about the spiritual connection, right? So where's my spiritual connection? Maybe spotty, or what else, in this, I did this since high school. If you know where to look things up, you don't need to learn them by heart. So I also like to use Karen Curry Parker's mobile app. That's only iPhone though, not Android. The challenge is to trust the divine order in all of life, to learn to connect with Source as the path to creating well-being in your life, to remember that your life serves an irreplaceable role in the cosmic plan and to honor that role and to live from it, to trust Source. So it's very, very spiritual, right? And I've been spiritual since I was little, probably 3 years old. I've believed in God. I've prayed most of my life. So it's not that it's not there, but how have I relied on it? How have I used it? Have I used it consistently in good times and in bad times, right? So one of the unbalanced expressions is using your life strictly for personal gains, regardless of the impact on others, ego in the lowest expression, not feeling worthy of being loved by Source, and using your willpower to create instead of alignment. That last sentence for me has been the key. Not feeling worthy of being loved. And this is, if I put by Source in brackets, it is just my self-worth for being loved, has always been kind of spotty. And using my willpower to create instead of alignment has been a big one because I'm also very tenacious. I have lots of stamina. I keep going, persistence, It's my sixth year in business. And I've worked through so many things that have been hard and other people would have stopped long ago, but it wasn't from the right origins, right? A lot of times. And that's when things were hard for me. So this is how you check your Chiron, and you got to really be honest with yourself there. And this is one of the big pieces of your financial puzzles. Then the next one we're going to look at from the challenges area still is we're going to look at your Mercury. Mercury, also known as your, and this is usually in the human design chart, the fifth one down. Is it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one down. The little cross with the ball and the horns on it. So it looks like a little man with horns on it. It's also known as your soul's message. So a lot of people try to then look, oh, what's the positive attributes of my Mercury gate? But what they're missing is, and then they start talking about it, and yes, that's great stuff because you align yourself more with the higher energy of this gate. But also, Mercury requires a lot of embodiment. It requires constant embodiment. So that's why I put it also into the challenge area, but I'm also putting it into the adding and sharing area that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Want to check yourself really, and you can do this with a Gene Keys book. Unlock Your Design doesn't go into the shadow or the challenges part as much. It has just a little bit of it usually at the bottom, but to really understand your shadows of each of these, I would highly recommend going into the Karen Curry Parker's Quantum books or app and seeing, because she always has the unbalanced expression, or the Gene Keys, obviously, very detailed shadow expression there. So be honest with yourself, right? Because if you don't have those core pieces right, where you're like, okay, I'm always going to have to be working on this. I'm always going to have to be going into embodiment with that. Just like keep it at the forefront of your mind, but you can't do that if you don't know what the challenges are. Then the next one we're going to look at, we could have looked at that before as well, is the second one down on the right is the conscious earth. That is always going to be the biggest grounding factor to your conscious sun. Your conscious sun, we're going to talk about in a few minutes too, but your conscious earth is always the one who's going to try and keep you away from your conscious sun in the shadow expression. So check your conscious earth shadow expression. That is a very, very big one to keep you from living your purpose and shining your light. And when you shine your light, obviously you make more money, right? So that's the connection there. So the earth is always in the chart opposite the sun. So the sun wants to shine, it wants to fly, it wants to be out there. The conscious earth is the counter force. But in the shadow expression, these two will amplify each other. So really be mindful there and consciously work on your conscious earth gate and how to get more into the gift expression, into the balanced expression, into the mastery. Then the next one we're going to look at now at the unconscious side, on the left side, into the red numbers. Most charts have these in red. Some charts will have a different color, but it's always the left. We're going to look at our first up top. We'll start up top. Our unconscious sun. Our unconscious sun is the first gate, top left. For me, that's the 19. So what that is in Gene Keys, it's your radiance. So that means when you focus on this and aligning this to the higher frequency of this energy, of this gate, of gate 19, for example, in my case, then your body is going to feel better. So you physically becoming more radiant. You're going to have more energy, more enthusiasm, which is a big piece, especially for all you undefined sacrals out there, right? Your body as well, when you're radiating, you're already automatically, your aura shines differently. You're getting more recognition. You have more energy for creating. It's very, very important gate for money. So radiating out into the world physically, that's up top left here. Take a really good look at that gate and the expressions of shadow and mastery, or shadow and gift. Then the next one we're going to look at is, which one's first? Let's do Mars. So Mars is this little ball with the arrow pointing to the top right. Mars is very masculine energy, is the god of war. Aries, ruled by Aries, also god of war. So it's very young energy. That's why oftentimes the challenges of this gate come up earlier in life, but can last around. So look at the shadow as well of this gate, because when you overcome this turns in gene keys, turns into your vocation, what you actually often end up doing with people, right? So 54, the gate of, and in gene keys, that's the lower expression of this is greed. So do I do this for greed, or do I do this for sharing? Do I do this to bring abundance to the world, right? That's basically what I do with people. So, but I had to overcome my own relationship with that challenge, with that shadow side first, so that I can actually turn this into my vocation. So big piece of money, big shadow that can hold you back if you don't transform this consciously. And then another big money block in the chart is actually unconscious Jupiter. Right underneath, usually Jupiter starts kind of like, the letter looks a little bit like a J. That's how I remember it oftentimes. So the shadow frequency of the left side Jupiter, so the unconscious Jupiter, is also, because Jupiter is all about adding more and creating more, amplifying things. So when you're in the shadow frequency of that Jupiter, especially here on the left side, in your body, in your unconscious, then you can't make more, then you can't amplify. So really looking at that as well as a potential money block, being honest with yourself. And for each of these, you can also, of course, do a lot of journaling or work with your coach, or, get intuitive healing sessions, whatever it is that floats your fancy. So now we're going to move into the other side, where we're going to look into, now that we've balanced, and this will be a work, this will be ongoing, this will be something that will keep coming up, but it's not like, first I have to do all this and then I can do that. It's more like the awareness of, yes, I have to tend to my shadows. Yes, I have to transform them. Yes, I have to move more into the gift and the mastery of these energies. But it's not, I have to wait to get this fully right, because we never will, because we're human. But the more you do that, the more you open yourself up to money. It's a spectrum, right? You're not either closed to money or open. You're, am I this much open to money, or am I this much open to money, or this much, or this much, or this much, right? And then the more you open yourself to money, the more you can also amplify, right? And that's why we're using the other side, the adding and the sharing piece. So first one, and we're back with the screen share. The first one, again, like I already hinted at, is your conscious sun, top right gate. For me, that's the 24 in my fourth line, but we're not doing lines right now. But 24 wants to shine out in the world, right? So again, the conscious earth will always be my check, right? The more I transcend my conscious earth, the more I will also be able to share and shine my light. How you can help, how your chart can help you with that, by understanding what is the mastery, also what is the shadow of this, but what is the mastery? How can I focus more on shining that into the world? How can I make that tangible? How can I pull that into actions in everyday life, right? The energies of the 24. Again, look in the Gene Keys book, look in the Your Trusted Human Design book. What is this energy about, and how can you share it more in the world? That is basically how people perceive you already. But I mean, if you're doing a normal job, or alternatively, they know you for the shadow frequency of this. It's really what you radiate out. So check yourself with that. And the next one, then again, like I already hinted at, is your conscious Jupiter. your conscious Mercury. Jupiter is after. Mercury, the one that asks you a lot of embodiment, will also be something that you naturally stand for. And so the more you can actively and naturally stand for it, and the frequency of the shadow, the gift here and the mastery, the more money you will naturally attract as well. And then last but not least, here, conscious Jupiter. Conscious Jupiter is like one of the classical money gates, and there are other gates in the chart that we are not going into today that are traditional abundance and money gates. I didn't want to go there because it's been done so many times, and I just like my holistic approach to this more. But you can definitely look them up. But conscious Jupiter is definitely a spot you can look that, in Gene Keys as well, but also in human design, is a classical money gate, because it's about how do I amplify? How do I make more? So you will naturally probably find that the conscious side of Jupiter, so remember over here we looked at the unconscious Jupiter, usually big money block. The conscious side of Jupiter is usually something where you're naturally most likely not experiencing the shadow frequency as much, because it's on the soul side and it's about blessings, it's about more, it's about protection, that kind of stuff. Also in your astro chart, always fun to look at. So one last thing before we finish that I want to look at with you is, for the sake of this masterclass, is your astro chart. And like I said, I love using my True Sky, True Sidereal, and it doesn't matter which one you look at, just be mindful of your intention, how you want to use it, what's it for. So let me share this with you as well. Hopefully you've seen an astrology chart before, but this is it. Somewhere in the middle, usually, or sometimes on the outside of this ring, you will find numbers. And on the left side, at 9 o'clock, it's always where the first house starts. So you will always find a 1 somewhere. The astro chart is divided up into 12 pieces of cake. Some calculations will make them similar or same size. Some will make them different. This is from Mastering the Zodiac, which I said is my favorite way of, I trust just the calculation the most here for True Sky. So we're going to look for, and here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 houses, they go counterclockwise. We are looking for your second house. So find not the first piece of cake here under 9 o'clock, but find like the one that is between 7 and 8 kind of o'clock in that area, and look for where it says the 2. So here on the outside, usually it's on the outside somewhere, you will see somewhere are your signs that the house that inhabit this house for you. So for me, I have 3 signs in my second house. Why the second house? The second house stands for money and personal belongings, physical possessions. This is basically your money house. So I always like to look at that as well. And what are we looking at here is we're going to look for the second house ruler. What is that? Who rules the second house? So you want to look, where is the line between 1 and 2, first house and second house? There's a divider line. And who sits on that divider line between the first and the second house? For me, that's Libra. Right? So write down what sign that is for you, and then look up online who rules that sign. So for me, I know the ruler of Libra is Venus. Venus also rules Taurus. She rules two signs. But for Libra, I know. So now that I know who rules Libra, it's Venus. I go looking for Venus in my chart. So Venus is in my 6th house, very close to my 7th house, but it's just in True Sky. When I was born, it was in my 6th house, in the energy of Pisces. So everything that the 6th house stands for which is a Virgo energy, but don't worry about that if that's too deep. The sixth house stands for being of service, for health and wellness, for daily habits, lots of this kind of stuff. And so I can make my connection with, okay, if I focus on sixth house stuff, because why? Because the ruler of my second house is in the sixth house. And the second house is about how do I make money, basically, amongst other things, but for the sake of this masterclass, right? So now I know, okay, I focus on being of service, my daily rituals, habits, being disciplined, and be like focusing on my health and wellness, and doing it in the energy of Pisces. So very intuitive, very compassionate, maybe not as rigid as a Capricorn would do it, right? So intuitive habits, intuitive health, holistic health, being of service in a compassionate way, like lots of these things. And again, ChatGPT can help you with that too, can help you put two and two together here if you want, and just ask it like, what does the sixth house stand, or what is it in your case? Let's say your second house has Virgo, right? Then I would look, okay, who rules Virgo? Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Then you look for your Mercury in your chart. And for me, that would be Aries in the seventh house. So then you ask ChatGPT, what does the seventh house stand for? And what if we combine it with the energy of the Aries, right? You get beautiful answers. And those are the energies you actually want to focus on more in your life, not with your clients, but just for you. This is a big piece also of what will amplify the flow of your money. So I hope this has been helpful. Please reach out if you want to work on this together in any kind of way, or if you want to join any of my programs or masterminds or whatever you want to do, or become a private client, or just reach out and say, hi, I'm always happy when you do that. You can find me on Instagram at alexandra.daniele. And I am so happy that you were here with me today. And I hope to see you on the internet soon. And I hope that you go and use this information and have a blast with it. Lots of love and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.